All right, let's do this. We are going to jump into exposure now. Now, what are we talking about with exposure? Exposure might just be a fancy word for brightness. How bright is the image? Is it properly bright? Is it too bright? Is it not bright enough? This is what we call exposure. So if you look at this slide, you can see that there are three images on it. The one on the left is too dark. It is underexposed. The one in the center is just right. It's properly exposed. The one on the right is too bright. It's overexposed. So, of course, what we're aiming for, at least with the camera, is proper exposure. We can always make it brighter or darker in post if we want it to look overexposed or underexposed, but we're going to start with a properly exposed image and manipulate it after that. Now, there are four ways that we can control exposure. So in this video, we're going to explore the first way, which is use of the aperture. Inside every lens is an opening, and I'll demonstrate this. I've got an old Nikon film camera here, which I love. It's just an old warhorse. When I was in college, this was a standard of photography. Very few photographers did not work with these Nikon F-series cameras. I'm going to go ahead and pop the lens off, and just like with the other one, I push that little button, and then it'll let me twist, although it twists the wrong way. Now, you can see there's a hole through it. Of course there's a hole through it. How does light get inside the camera? And there's a dial out here that as I manipulate, you can see that hole getting larger and smaller. Move to the middle of the screen there. Now, if you look at the edge of the lens, let me turn it around so it's right side up. You'll see that as I'm turning that same dial, there's a series of numbers lining up with the black dot there. So it goes from 2 to 2.8, 4, 5.6, 8, 11, 16. And as I'm doing that, you can see that hole is changing size. So down here at F2, that hole is wide open. And as I stop down, each of these clicks is called one f-stop. Every time I do that, this hole gets smaller, or if I go the other direction, the hole gets bigger. Okay. These holes are measured in what are called f-stops. And every time you change a stop, you're letting either twice as much or half as much light into the camera. So you're either multiplying by 2 or dividing by 2. Your picture's getting twice as bright or half as bright. And again, those numbers are going to be the same on any camera you look at. So if you look at the slide here, you can see a conceptual thing here. 1.4, 2, 2.8, 4, 5.6, 8, 11, 16. These are standard numbers. It wouldn't hurt you to memorize them. As the number gets smaller, the hole gets bigger and your picture gets brighter. As the number gets larger, the hole gets smaller and your picture gets darker. All right, so let me pull the Olympus out and let's take a look at this. Okay, so I have it pointed just off screen here. I've got a little setup with my my favorite action figures, Buzz Lightyear and Venom and Spider-Man. And you can see on the screen that if you look at the bottom there, you can see f5.6 is kind of left of center there. Now, if I turn this front dial on the camera, and again, if I was holding this with my right hand, it would be my index finger turning it. As I turn this dial, you can see that that number is getting bigger. So there's F8. And you can see that as I'm making that number bigger, there's F11. That picture is getting darker and darker. There's F16. I can keep going on this camera for a little bit further, anyway, up to F22. And as I go back in the other direction, as that number gets smaller, you can see that the picture is getting brighter. Now, f5.6 is as far as I can go with this particular lens. it's an affordable lens. It has its limitations. But you can see that the change is making. And I'm making that change with my right index finger by turning that front knob. Turning that front knob opens and closes my iris, or my aperture. The terms iris and aperture are kind of interchangeable. One is the hole itself. The other refers to the metal blades that make the hole. Yeah, you can use either one. So notice that on this camera, I told you that f1.4, 2, 2.8, 4, 5.6, 8, 11, 16 are the numbers. But you'll notice that as I move this, it's going from 5.6 to 6.3 to 7.1 to 8. So it's actually moving in 1/3 of a stop increments. So from 5.6 to 8 is a stop. But you'll notice that there were 2 positions in between there. And that's lovely, the fact that you can actually do that fine tuning. You don't necessarily need to memorize all of the 1/3 stop increments. If I look at this F9, I know it's between F8 and F11, which are, full F stops. But I did want to point that out. And on this camera, every one of these changes is a physical click on this dial. It's very satisfying to turn this. I can feel the clicks, and I know that if I turn it 3 clicks, I'm going to end up I'm at 5.6 now. If I turn it 3 clicks, it's going to end up at F8. 1, 2, 3, F8. If I turn it 3 more clicks, it's going to be F11. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So, aperture, easy enough. You open it up, more light comes in, the picture gets brighter. You close it down, you let less light in, the picture gets darker. We care about f-stops because they also, in addition to controlling brightness, they control something called depth of field. And depth of field is related to what is in focus and what's not in focus. Don't worry, we're going to spend an entire lesson just on depth of field. But I just wanted you to know there's a reason that we're going to care about this down the road. All right, so if we open 3 f-stops, we're starting at f8 and we're going to open 3 stops to f2.8, how much brighter is our image? Remember, every time you open one spot, every time you open one stop, you're putting twice as much light into the camera. So if we're opening 3 stops, so from f8 to 5.6 is times 2. From 5.6 to 4 is times 2 again, and from 4 to 2.8 is times 2 again. The answer is that it's going to be 8 times brighter. It's not going to look 8 times brighter. Don't worry about that. If we start at F4 and we want to close down 2 stops, where do we end up? That one's pretty easy. Close down literally means we're closing the hole, we're making it smaller. So if you look at the graphic there and just slide 2 to the right, you end up at F8. Your iris is set to F5.6, but the image looks too dark, and it looks like it's about 2 stops too dark. How much do you have to open up? Where are you going to open up to make it look normal? Well, again, we need it to be 2 stops brighter. Brighter is a bigger hole. It's moving to the left on this chart, so we're going to end up at f2.8. Knowing the basics of this, open your iris, smaller numbers, brighter. Close your iris, bigger numbers, darker. Remember that much. And if you can memorize the numbers, it's not going to hurt anything. We're going to move on in the next video to adding a second variable to this. So make sure you've got at least a conceptual grasp on this before you start the next one.